we go! Theorycraft Thursday, round 2. Ready, fight!
Alright, hello everyone, welcome to Theorycraft Thursday, excuse me. If you listen to the Patreon episode, you'll know I got berated for theory crafting.
Are you in agreement now? Is that like, have you yielded? Do you still think oh my god, my phone. Do you still think theory crafting is better?
I mean, personally, I find theory crafting rolls off my tongue more naturally, but I will, this is one of these things that I've, you gotta pick your battles. I'm not going to argue ad nauseum about my preference for theory crafting. If it's Theorycraft Thursday, I'll accept it, and we'll just call it Theorycraft Thursday.
I mean, just be happy you're still on the show, right?
Oh god, kids these days. I try to keep my household managed. I try to keep Roland in line. I try to keep Proud in line, and then Cyphus tries to meander about helping me, but some weeks it just doesn't pan out. Anyway, we of course are everybody's favorite Mass Effect podcast. This is of course Andromeda Hype Week. We've done 5 podcast episodes this week, all about Mass Effect Andromeda. I promise that definitely happened. I am quite excited to romance the many honeys, and I don't know what the male version of a honey is.
I think you can still be a honey.
Yeah, that's fair. Gender equality and whatnot.
I feel like I'm a honey, if I had to say so.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to have self-confidence, I suppose. But anyway, I'm very excited for Mass Effect Andromeda. I pre-ordered the special edition $70 whatever, despite the fact that pre-ordering is such a stupid thing.
What little extra goodies you get there, bucko?
Skins and armors, and I think there's an extra car skin, or whatever they're calling it now, what used to be the Mako, and now I'm sure it has a different name, and other stuff. I mean, I love Mass Effect, so I'm very, very excited for it to come out. What is it, March 18th or something? March something?
I don't know anything about anything.
Anyway, do you not play Mass Effect?
No, I really wanted to, but I started playing the first one 10 years after it came out, and I was like, yo, I'm gonna play Dota. So I did. I love Mass Effect in concept, and I have a crush on Garrus just like everyone else. But I just haven't played them. I've watched most of them and had people explain the entire story to me several times. So, I don't have that much of a need to play them. I know they're really cool, and I support your love for it. I'm just not in that little fandom there, bucko.
Yeah, it's a fun game. To be fair, the first game is clunky and
a little bit of a slog fest.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a slog. It's still a super fun game, but it is definitely, compared to the other two, it is a drastically different control scheme, and
sure.
You have all the thing I hate most in video games is inventory management. I hate it so much. I hate weight limits. I'm playing Skyrim now, and
it's the best. Optimize, bro. Got optimized.
God. I cannot Witcher. When I was playing Witcher, I went out of my way to find a mod that deleted the what's it called? The weight limits and stuff. God, and durability. Oh my god, kill me.
Durability, I'm not a big fan of. I will say one of my favorite things. I don't like weight limits when they don't make any sense. If you can have 1 trillion bombs on you, just in your inventory, just waiting, but also your gear equipment has and you can only wear light armor, but then you have 72 fucking bombs in your back pocket. That doesn't make any goddamn sense. I like playing Stalker. This it's kind of the game that inspired the Metro 2033 or whatever those games are. And I would mod it so I had the lowest, a really, really low carry weight, 33 kilograms or some shit. So basically I had 1 gun and a little bit of ammo for it, and my armor and a med kit or 2. But as soon as I went out into the waste, I'd quickly run out of all my shit, so I'd have to just be scavenging the entire time I'm doing anything for any ability to get through the game. And it was super, super fun. But that's because the game knew how to do weight limits. If it's something like I said, you can just have a trillion things, but actually, you just can't wear that extra, a little plate on your boots. That's too much. But yeah, pick up 50 Dragon Bones, whatever.
Yeah, I agree completely. It's just one of those things where I understand some people like it in in an immersion sense. Other people just are really anal about that kind of stuff and enjoy having that kind of extra level of organization to do. But man, I just cannot be bothered to deal with organizational BS in my RPGs. Okay. Anyway, now that we've gotten all our Mass Effect / Skyrim / whatever other games we're talking about Skyrim. Let's talk about Dota 2. That's a game that we play occasionally, sometimes, maybe.
Yeah.
How has your week in Dota been? Most you're proud.
Pretty bad. I had a lot of like real bad games with junglers and stuff recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just like I'm so fucking done with playing Lone Druid, despite the fact that my last two wins were on Lone Druid. Um, I don't know, man. Some of these games you get are just like, hey, turns out we don't have an offlaner. Somehow we managed to just not draft an offlaner. We just have three supports, and like one of the supports is like, it's okay, I'll jungle, and I'm like, Undying, buddy, please don't jungle. But that's what happens sometimes, and then sometimes you just lose games to Dota 2. So those have been my games. Yeah, not great, honestly. I've been playing a little bit of Chaos Knight, a little bit more in the solo rank. The Chaos Knight is so strong, but I don't have a lot of wins on him because bad games.
Yeah.
But, he's strong, man. Like I was like 11-4 on a game that ended like 32-43. So I feel decent about it. I have this maneuver that I've been doing with Chaos Knight a lot, where I like if they're trying to Rax us, which is often because whenever I play Chaos Knight, it's like, well, I need to be a tempo controlling, stunning safe laner, which often means my team composition is goddamn horrible. But like, let's say they're Raxing Radiant, they're Raxing mid, and I walk out of the like the bottom lane or something. And I just wait for them to go up, and then I'll like do my reality rift thing, send two illusions on one of the supports in the back, and then send me and my other two illusions to like go fight their carry. So I have like two illusions zoning their backline, and I'm just like inserting myself from the back, and I like reality rift a sniper out, and they have their frontliners like, all right, here I go, I'm going in there, ready to back me up, and then they look back, and there's just a bunch of Chaos Knights like running everywhere, killing everything, and they're like, oh shit. Oh, everyone's dead, and it's the best, man. Flanking tactics in Dota are so fulfilling to actually get off and be successful with.
Yeah, for sure. I know. So I've been pumping out these replay reviews, and I had one from like someone who's like 1500 MMR, and he was like flanking like a baller, and I was like, dude, what a player. The intricacy of flanking has always been interesting to me in Dota because it's one of those things, like many things in Dota, right? That's simple conceptually. Like, oh, there's a fight here, I'll just go from the side. But in practice, it's like always some degree of a mess where it's like, okay, I was flanking, but then they were making a larger flank around me, and then I died. Or I tried to flank, but then, fog of war, and then yada, yada, yada. Like,
yeah. Or if you flank when your team is not actually engaging. Like I had one time where I was just waiting on the sidelines, like I was silver edged up and I was ready to go, and it's like, all right, initiate, and then 13 seconds goes by of them just like hitting our racks where just no one does anything, and I'm like, my Shadow Blade's gonna run out, guys. This is not a good thing. And then it ran out, and then I wasn't able to initiate, and they saw me and they just killed me because they had a ward, and I was like, well, we tried.
Yep.
So if your team doesn't engage, it's not a flank. It's just you going in 1v5 and dying from the side.
Yeah, boy, I've had some not great team comp games as well recently. I've not played a ton of Dota since I've been doing all these replay reviews and recording and all that. But other games I don't think there's been a single game where like I actually had like a 1 through 5. Like, I think every game would be like, okay, we have 3 supports, or we have 1 support, or we have no supports, or we lack a safe lane. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, my week in Dota really has been kind of uneventful. I'm still just playing a lot more Invoker. Like, I know I was kind of crapping all over him right at the beginning of this patch, and like, his talents are like, and double Forge at 15 is kind of like, also. Right. But I'm coming around on him. I even played a couple games of Quas Wex, which was a good time. Although Quas Wex is generally worse. But Quas Wex is fun. I think like certain matchups kind of beg me to play Quas Wex. But I'm glad that I'm getting him back in my comfort zone. I feel. Yeah. It's very easy, I think, in Dota, especially, I mean, kind of with my personality towards Dota as like a strategy and when it comes to heroes and balance and all that, it's very easy to just write off a hero, especially who you like, and just be like, kind of like Lena right now. Except Lena's probably a bad example because she's actually unplayably bad. But it's very easy to just get down on something and be like, yeah, I'm just not going to play Invoker for the next 6 months. And then that does not afford you the opportunity to be like, oh, well, actually, if I do it this way, it's actually pretty playable. Kind of like you with Sven early in this patch, if I recall correctly. Be like, man, Sven just sucks. And
No,
then
I
you switched
actually
it
I
up.
played a ton of Sven when this patch came out, and then eventually I was like, he's actually just like not good. Like once the patch kind of like coalesced, and it was just like Luna gaming all the time.
Yes, of
Like
course.
yeah, Sven just kind of sucks, and I still kind of think that. I still don't really pick Sven in solo rank except the one game I did where I played very badly personally. It was very disappointing for me.
Yeah.
It was like an all eyes on Sven kind of team. Like we had we had like Darkseer and Axe and Magnus, and I had Empower, and I was like, the only way we're ever gonna win a team fight is if I get the like if they get the combo and then I follow up. And I kept doing team fights where I would like blink in, stun an Orchid a Dazzle, and then they would do the like they would RP like three people, and I was like, I'm already on the Dazzle. I'm a fucking idiot. And yeah, that was bad. But yeah, no, Sven is actually pretty okay. But there was definitely a time where I was kind of down on him.
Yeah.
That's the only relation to what you were saying.
I'm
I
very
just wanted to talk about
susceptible.
that game.
Yeah. I'm very susceptible to that. That mentality of just being like, well, this hero sucks and or is garbage to use the term. So I'm
I would
trying.
say like it's definitely easy to think a hero is bad enough that you're not going to play them in solo ranked. Like that's
Oh yeah.
certainly where I would go. Like, I'm always going to play Sven in like a pub or whatever and think he's like okay in some aspects, but like yeah, there's a lot of heroes that I love to death that I'm just like Chaos Knight. Chaos Knight is good. I just am not that confident on him that I will pick him in solo ranked, right? Like that's just how it is.
Yeah. That's actually so. As is well known, I've not been playing solo ranked. I have not really been playing a tremendous amount of Dota in the first place, but I've been thinking like there's a big barrier, I suppose, mentally with me going back to solo ranked, and it's not even about like, oh boy, if I lose, I'm not gonna be 5K. It's just about the fact that like a lot of the heroes that are really good, I don't want to play. Like I literally.
Yeah.
Like obviously we're both like super tryhards at Dota, and like we want to win the game more than and pretty much anything else in ranked. But I cannot bring myself to be like, okay, well, I'm gonna play Luna. It's like I don't want to freaking play Luna, dude. I just want to relax and play unranked or relax and do something else or play party games. Like, man, I just cannot abide having to go into a game and be like, okay, if this hero's in the pool, I need to pick her, or all those like little X factors. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, boy. If I go back into ranked and I come into these games where like oh my team is all like low 4Ks or mid 4Ks or something and I have to take a mid or a safe lane, which is fine. I mean, I prefer to support, but it is what it is. The checklist of heroes that I was going down was like, all right, what would I play? It's like, okay, well, I don't want to play Luna ever. I can play Juggernaut, but Juggernaut he's good right now, but he's not in a like great like solo
Not
carry.
pickable.
Yeah.
He's like a group up 5-man carry. He's
Yeah.
not the like solo kill everyone carry that he was like,
Yeah.
3 months ago.
And it's like, yeah, Invoker, but Invoker takes some time to get online and he can't contribute. So if my enemy mid picks something like a Storm Spirit and rotates early and I'm not useful
and you
enough.
miss a single Sunstrike, you're like a zero impact hero for 20 minutes.
So man, that's just been like a big what's it called, like a wall for me.
I will say though, if you do want to avoid the Luna Cancer, Terrorblade is a fantastic hero to be playing right now.
I've heard that.
First game of Terrorblade recently. I mean, it counters SD Luna perfectly. Like if they have five Luna illusions, you press Q, and now you have 5 Luna illusions plus the Luna herself, and they all spawn on your opponent. So all the glaives are bouncing perfectly on them, whereas they have this kind of like. Their locus of damage, they need to relocate it like towards you, into you, but you have them all slowed up, and your locus of damage that Luna illusions generate is like right on top of them. It's fantastic. The one game of Terrorblade I did play recently though was a 3 support game, and we almost won, but man, 3 supports when 2 of them don't scale at all is pretty vicious. But Terrorblade is honestly really strong right now.
Man, it's funny you mention that because the combo we're playing today, actually, my first thought about it was you playing Terrorblade and me playing the hero I'm going to be playing. And then you were like, oh, hey. I mean, I don't know why I'm saying this. It's in the title of the show. So we're going to be playing Morphling Abaddon today. And someone, I think Nameless New, brought it up. And he was just saying, like, dude, Morphling Ags plus Terrorblade would be ridiculous. Because you would just have Metamorphosis on Morphling and all that, and he could still build like a Hurricane Pike on Morphling support if you can swing it in like the late game. And boy, that'd be something. Morphling support Terrorblade.
Yeah,
That'd be mean.
it's not too bad.
But before we talk about our combo for this week, let's talk about our actual what's it called segment. Our segment this week, because we're going to be playing an offlane hero in the Abaddon, is going to be making the best out of a terrible offlane situation. And this is an issue that I think everybody kind of runs up against, myself included, where it's just like, boy, I'm just getting zoned. They warded my camp. This sucks. I hate Dota 2. Like that kind of thing. So I guess you can start us off and just talk about, how you make the best of that awful bad situation that's incredibly demoralizing.
Yeah, so this is something that we were kind of touching on it in Proud a little bit. The idea, at least supporting the idea that you have this really solid rhythm as a support, that you need like a real like rhythm or a tempo that you want to be playing by that closely follows just like the minute marker and what happens as minutes time over or minutes turn over and different objectives create themselves upon the map. And offlane is pretty similar. The only difference is, in addition to the minutes becoming objectives, there's also the enemy safe lane pushing into your tower. So the prime thing that denotes you have a terrible off lane is that the enemy has a tri lane, or they have a really strong dual lane that can kill you the second you rear your ugly head. And the way that you have to deal with that is, one, you have to be able to get something out of the off lane jungle. If you're not able to go in lane, there are kind of like three things that you can still be doing to get yourself ahead. There's getting bounty runes, there's killing jungle camps, and there's sitting under tower if the enemy safe lane just pushes it straight up under there, right? So you need to, if you can identify you're going against a tri lane, no matter what the tri lane is, or what looks like a threatening dual lane, which would be a dual lane with a carry with a nuke, or a strong carry that you can't really bully, like an Ursa or a life stealer, or just an offlaner that has an absurd amount of zoning potential, be it a silencer or a Skywrath mage or something like that.
Yeah.
Or they have a really good roamer that's likely to come up there and fuck you up. Like if they have a lion, and if they have like lion Slardar or something, it's probably a pretty dangerous offlane. Oh, sorry, I had to cough. Okay, so that's identifying, okay, this sucks, and it's much better to identify that it's going to be a terrible offlane and stop it from being devastating before you actually die 3 times. You don't want to say, oh, this is a really strong offlane. Okay, I've died 3 times. Time to stop going to this offlane and find something new about it. No, you want to be like, this is going to suck. I'm going to stop this before it actually sucks. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with you. I think it's very important just to... It's very easy to be a reactionary in Dota, right? Be like, okay, well, using offlane as an example, you get first blooded because they're playing like Ursa Disruptor Lion or Ursa Disruptor Ogre Magi or something.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, well, obviously they were going to kill you because you're playing offlane Crystal Maiden or something, and you just should not have put yourself in that situation. But it's the natural thing for a lot of people is just to try it, and if it doesn't work out, then they're like, okay, well, maybe now I should do something different. When really you should have thought from the first place, like, hey, this is literally never going to work. So going forward,
it would be better to avoid the dire situation before it becomes dire. You got to visualize what this lane is really going to look like. Are you going to walk up in there and they're just not going to do anything? No, you're going to walk up in there and they're going to try to kill you. And if you're not a hero that can survive them trying to kill you, and not only survive, but come out ahead of their kill attempt, like with an Ursa or whatever, the Ursa's not really going to expend anything to try to get you. Best case scenario, they end up pushing the wave because they try to hit you and they don't hurt you at all, and you can just sit on your tower once it comes back to you. But I mean, the main thing that you want to do is not die. So you identify, okay, they're probably going to kill me if I go to this lane, so I need to be able to get something out of the jungle, and I want to try to get the bounty runes every minute. So from that, you can say, if it looks like I'm going up against a bad lane, I need to start in a way that can either get me an Iron Talon very quickly or get me an Iron Talon like immediately.
Yeah, some degree of immediacy.
Or like gives you some kind of other jungling ability. If you're a Mirana or whatever, you probably don't need to worry about that. If you're the offlane Crystal Maiden we just mentioned, I guess you don't need an Iron Talon because you have Frostbite.
Yeah.
Or that you can like go gank another lane. If you're a Slardar, You can't really do that until you're level 2. You need sprint plus crush. But I'm sure there's some kind of hero that
I
can
mean, if
do
you're like
that.
an offlane Earthshaker,
Yeah,
you
sure.
don't do
So
that
you
as
say,
much anymore, but that's still a thing that is not entirely uncommon.
yeah. So like, if it looks like your lane is just fucking horrendous, you want to get that Iron Talon, but it's gonna take some time. So maybe just run mid, see if you can get a nice Fisher block off that accomplishes
Yeah.
something, and just always keep a TP on you. Like if you're one of those heroes that's gonna be going around doing a bunch of random ass shit. Always keep a TP on you because as soon as the enemy starts looking like they're gonna push into your tower, that's when you need to TP. It's gonna have
Yeah.
a really long cooldown after you do it, but I mean, obviously, like you got it. You're in that lane. Like you're the person who's in that lane. The second that you are not at the very least taking XP under that tower, that's when you go from a team with like three or with 3 cores to just 2 cores, 2 supports, and a random fuck ass who isn't doing anything.
Yeah. It's I mean, yeah, at a very basic level, right? If it's under your tower, somebody has to be getting it, otherwise it's just wasted XP. Like it's literally going to
Yeah,
nobody.
get no value out of that, and you gotta get value out of the resources that are being provided to you through
Yeah.
stuff.
So
Okay, no, that's
no,
fine.
you can go
No,
actually.
that's okay.
I mean, I
I'll
was
go. I'll
gonna
go.
pivot
No, no, no.
completely.
Oh
So
no, it's okay. I'll go. I'll go. So if you do have the ability to jungle, there's like really one very basic tempo that an offlaner wants to go through, and that's odd minute mark happens, or the 30 seconds or whatever. You want to kill the 2 camps next to you want to kill the 2 offlane camps if possible, and then as you do that, the rune should spawn. It should probably take you a minute to a minute 20 to kill both camps, depending on how well leveled you are. But as soon as that happens, then you get the rune, and then you check for the lane kind of pushing in. And if you've been out of lane for like a minute 20, their supports have probably rotated at that point. And it's sort of your like moral obligation to be putting some pressure on the safe lane to make sure that the supports aren't just, running around while they're carry free farms 1v0. So, do the camps, get your bounty rune, and then show your like poke some presence out into the off lane and just start like even just getting experience and make their safe laner be like, guys, this off laner is getting free experience here and it sucks. Come here and zone him, and that zone them. That takes pressure off your other lanes and stops the enemy supports from ganking all your other friends in every which lane. And that's important. Like you can't just give up the off lane and give their supports free roam to gank all over the map, because then not only have you lost off lane by being completely zoned, you've lost every other lane because they're all going to get ganked up horrendously. So like the basic tempo is odd minute turns, do 2 camps, pick up the bounty rune, show your face, and just keep rotating like that. Oftentimes you can go to the off lane, like if they're under tower and you've still got 40 to 50 seconds until the or a full minute until the time rolls over. Like let's say it hits odd minute, you kill 1 camp, there's still another camp to kill, you still have the medium camp or the hard camp or whatever, but the enemy creep wave is now under your tower. Because you have a 2 minute window in between spawns, you can like sit under tower for 40 seconds, even if you like, use a nuke to try to clear out that as fast as possible. Like you're not trying to keep it under tower, you just try to clear it as fast as possible. And then you go back to your jungle, finish the 1 camp that's left over, then odd minute's gonna hit, things are gonna roll over, and then you get the camps again and wait for the next kind of rotation. Like that's what you need to do. It's very rote and it's very basic, but you just need to identify that that's the exact tempo that you need to do, and you need to engage in it as quickly as possible. Because as soon as you like wait 30 seconds, maybe a camp won't respawn by the time you need it, or someone will snipe your bounty rune because you haven't really identified you need to be going there yet. And as soon as your tempo gets disrupted at all, it just gets like way less effective. It's really easy to fall down in that kind of situation when you're not actually using every single thing you have at your disposal and taking advantage of every little resource that you do have.
yeah, I know another big thing that helps me a lot when I offlane, and I mean really just in Dota in general, is if your lane starts out as like a terrible kill lane, like using that example from earlier of like Disruptor, Ursa plus a stunner, you're going to obviously not participate in that lane early unless you're like, I don't know, I can't even think of a good hero that would not die to that. But
maybe Timber Saw.
I mean, let's say you randomed and you're playing Abaddon and you have Boots Windlace. I don't know, like it's just such an impossibly hard lane. Yeah. But the important thing to think is that lane is not necessarily always going to be those 3 heroes, right? Those 2 heroes the 2 supports may rotate. So you're going to want to not just tunnel vision, be like, okay, well, I got a jungle. you want to acknowledge like, okay, well, their supports just showed mid, or there was a fight top and both supports TP'd, and then your formerly miserable lane is now a 1v1 or a 1v2 or some kind of manageable lane, and then you can.
You want to keep eyes on those supports, especially if you're just jungling. You have nothing to do besides call where the supports are, where they're missing stuff. Like, you have to Iron Talon every 20 seconds, but outside of that, I mean, you're just like watching creeps die. You know, like, give some information, be the Oracle. You know,
yeah.
Not
the other
Oracle in a Dota sense, but like in a DC Comics sense.
Yeah. Probably my last tip regarding this is probably more common nowadays in the post 7.0 world. But there are so many sneaky paths and way to skirt line of sight in the trees in both the Radiant and Dire off lanes. And you can, if you're playing like a Slaughter or whatever, even if they have a kill lane, you can just outmaneuver them and like get stuck in these like little weird tree alcoves. And you can get a ton of XP that way. As a support, like especially if you're a solo support, even in great lanes, it is absolutely miserable and sometimes impossible to get offlaners out of those nooks and crannies in the jungle. If like it's an offlane faceless and I'm playing Rubik and we have a jungler and my safe laner is pretty much anybody, I can't do that. Like, it's a freaking faceless dude. He's a poor man's shield. What am I supposed to do there? So especially if you're one of those heroes with mobility like Slardar or faceless, you just sit in those trees, and even if you can't participate in the lane, you can still soak XP.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. There have been some times where I've been supporting recently where someone's just, like, I think we were against, like, a Bat Rider, and I figured the Bat was just jungling because they hit level 2 at some point, but then they just, like, walked out of some random trees, and I was like, are you shitting me? You've been here the fucking time. And then they're level 2, and I can't zone them anymore because now they have, you know, they're level 2. So if you're, like, someone who has difficulties jungling at level 1, like, Slardar honestly isn't that great at jungling from level 1. I'm trying to think who else. Like, Underlord isn't fantastic at it. He's like okay, but you need that plus damage to actually build up before you're really killing shit. There's you know, like if you find yourself offlane on a Pudge for some goddamn reason, Spirit Breaker's okay, but you know, like these heroes that can't really 1v2 by any stretch of the imagination, and especially not 1v3, and they have some difficulties jungling, like Timbersaw especially, great one for it. Don't just like sit behind the lane if you're just like, well, let's hope they don't hit me and zone me out. Instead, as like before the lane even spawns, like, you know, get your block off and all that stuff. But just like walk into the side shop area, and there's always going to be like some kind of tree path there, and just kind of exist there. The only way they're going to catch you is if they also walk into that crazy length of trees. And if they are doing that, like you can also just buy a TP while you're doing that, because you're going to be like by the side shop by nature of walking through it. And if you see, you know, they are trying to walk in there and get you, you know, just TP after they find you. But yeah, just like existing inside trees is a fantastic way to, you know, not get screwed by them having a really good lane. And also, if you're playing against lower skilled teammates, the only way they can really know that you're doing that, unless they check the trees manually, is if they're checking your level progression and also are aware that you're not jungling. So, I mean, unless you're in, you know, a 5K game, you're probably going to get away with that as long as you want to.
Yeah. And sometimes, honestly, they will just be like, this is just not worth the effort to deal with. Yeah. That's honestly, like, I've even had that approach sometimes where I'm like,
oh, totally.
I'm going to spend so much time trying to slap this dumb, stupid purple man, and it's not going to do anything. So I just need to let go and do something else, because whatever. He's going to get XP. It's not the end of the world. Move on. So,
and it's really hard for your supports to actually coordinate that. So if you're like deep in some trees somewhere, the only way that they're ever going to get any help is if someone is also directly following them. And like the trees naturally create chokes. So it's going to be like, you know, an Ogre Magi in the Disruptor. The Disruptor went first through the trees to try to find you, and the Ogre is trying to hit you, but the Disruptor is blocking him, and now you're just getting free hits on the Disruptor, and you can TP whenever the hell you goddamn want to, and this Ogre is like walking back and forth trying to get through these trees, and, you know, using tangos to cut through, and it just creates like this whole disaster that no one wants any part in, and it's just this wild clusterfuck of what should be a perfect kill lane, and now everyone's just like jerking off in the middle of the woods trying to find someone to kill.
Yeah, it's incredibly tilting, honestly, as a support player, even as a safe lane carry. It's just like, man, this is the dumbest thing. Like, this just should not be happening.
Yeah, no, it happens like if I'm playing like Luna or something and I have my real shit attack range, I see some like garbage happening in some trees, and I try to walk up to like the edge of the trees. And I'm like, can I right click from here? Can I get him? And then, you know, like I right click them, and then my Luna starts walking back and around some other trees. I'm like, no, just stay there. Just cut a tree and then try to right click. and then the one tango I use doesn't work. I'm like, Jesus Christ. It can be a whole disaster. So just sit in some trees. I think that's really that wasn't something I was gonna say originally, but yeah, man, just sitting in trees right now, I hate that. It's annoying as hell.
It's very simple and it's very good, and it's fun.
Some goddamn trees. Fuck everything else.
Yeah,
yeah. Honestly, just find a tree, climb up it, throw rotten apples at people.
Yeah.
Join the Calvin and Hobbes Gross Club, whatever.
Yep. So I don't know if our offlane is going to be hiding in trees, but maybe you will. So we are going to be playing for the combo this week. I'm going to be playing support Morphling, and Proud is going to be playing a offlane Abaddon. A la, if anybody's seen Slasher, he made a recent Abaddon carry guide, something along those lines, but as an offlaner instead, because Abaddon carry, while obviously Slasher had success with it, it is a bit committal, and yeah, but I'm excited to see it. I love Abaddon.
I think it kind of depends on having people who are aware of what you're doing, and also if you do pick Abaddon in one of my games, like even as someone who was into the idea, if you pick Abaddon carry in one of my games, like I will be like, why the hell do we have an Abaddon carry? Not because I necessarily think it's bad. I just think it's a stupid idea in a pub. And not to say, I think Slasher's dumb for doing it. I think obviously if it's working, it's working. And if you have players who are talented enough to play around it perfectly, there's a lot of stuff that is really good, but it requires you to play around it. Like the way you lose every pub is you try to high ground when on paper a pro team would be able to high ground there, but your shitty pub with no coordination is not able to high ground there.
Yeah.
And that's strats you should avoid. And I think carry Abaddon, and for me, a lot of my Juggernaut play also I feel like falls under that. Like there's some heroes that just work better when you're 5-manning. And something like carry Abaddon is definitely one of those things. But if you're playing a low-level pub and that's not really an option, then you're probably better off playing that Abaddon in the offlane where your team isn't going to be completely dependent upon your success.
Yes. Okay. Yep. Let's talk about our individual heroes now. Obviously, we talked about Abaddon a bit. Let's actually just finish off Abaddon first. So, what is the offlane / carry / whatever Abaddon build? I mean, like in general of the core items to buy on it.
Yeah, so it's not too dissimilar from the Abaddon of years past, but
of yore.
Essentially, you know what? I guess it probably is. You still get phase boots. You want to get the Orb of Venom early so that if you ever do find someone alone, you will just kill them.
Yeah, man.
But the main thing that made me want to do it, honestly, if I'm being real honest here, is the fact that you get Radiance.
It's a fun item.
I'm a Radiance boy. What can I say? I love the Radiance. I'm a big fan. So the central idea behind it is, I just dropped my phone. The central idea is the same thing as old Abaddon. Like you're tanky. If you find someone on your own, Curse of Avernus plus Orb of Venom, you're gonna be able to kill everyone. You have a defensive spell for yourself that not only absorbs damage but also kills people back. But it kind of is all dependent upon the really cool interaction between your ultimate and Blink Dagger, and that's as you're ulting, you are not taking any damage, and your Blink Dagger is never being disabled. So you should be able to get out of any situation anytime your ultimate is up, and assuming that a blink is enough to get you out. But it's not like you're going Blink Dagger first. The idea behind it is, so if you can do that, you can play as ballsy as possible. So what you're gonna do is be this hero that they never want to hit. And what's really good, if no one ever wants to hit you, having a Radiance. So you're going to get a Radiance, which did get buffed last patch, something not a lot of people are really talking about. It got nerfed for illusions. I think it's, how much damage is it burn damage on illusions? That was like 35 or something?
Yeah, it's something like that. It's like half of what it does regularly.
Is it that low? I actually want to check this real quick.
Actually might not be half. I think
it was just nerfed by 10, and then on the individual hero, it was buffed by 10. Anyway, on the hero, I know for a fact that it's stronger than it used to be. I think it's 50. Actually, I want to check these actual hard numbers here because this is really relevant to me. Okay, it's 60 damage per second on the hero and 40 damage per second on the illusion. Okay, so it went down just a little bit on the illusion and went up pretty majorly on the hero, which is really cool. I'm such a huge fan of that. I like Radiance as an actual item for heroes and not just well, if you got illusions, it's okay. Yeah, so it went from 50 to 60 on heroes and 50 to 40 on illusions. That's cool.
Yeah. So after that, of course, like we're talking about the blink dagger. The blink dagger interaction is one of those things that is not intuitive until somebody tells you, and then you're like, oh wow, that does make sense.
Yeah.
And at first, I can't remember if it was me or somebody else was like, dude, why the heck did this Abaddon build a blink dagger? And then I saw it actually work, and I was like, dude, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, it's kind of like OD building Blink. It's like,
Yeah.
well, I mean, Blink seems okay. Like he has, it's good to be able to like blink in there and have good positioning. But then you watch them astral themselves and then just blink out from 5 heroes, and you're like, is that allowed? Is this like, is this allowed? And then you just do it every game past that.
Yeah, so past that, I know Blade Mail is another big item that Slasher builds in his guide.
So Blade Mail is definitely, it's like another item that lets you just kind of like be in there and punish them for touching you. So it's like you go in there, you have your Radiance going, you have Blade Mail up, and then once Blade Mail is gone, you also have your ultimate to, back you up. So you've basically got up to 10 seconds where they can't really say anything about you, which is great when you have this passive bonus on your auto attack and you're trying not to get kited and that sort of thing. If you have Blade Mail going and the ability to turn invincible, getting kited is no longer going to be an issue, and you're just going to hold on to everyone you see. And that's great. You're going to be able to actually get your cast off, not get stun locked and killed out. You're going to be able to, you'll be right clicking people while popping your aphotic shields out to help your teammates and dispel things. It's real good. I like it a lot. As an offlaner though, I don't think I'm just going to rush I'm not going to just rush a Radiance. I'll probably do the Blade Mail then Radiance rather than Radiance then Blade Mail. And then try to get the blink after that. Like getting the Radiance as fast as possible is important, but also not doing anything on the early game is pretty important. The one thing I would kind of be concerned about this with is that it doesn't have any life regaining properties in the build whatsoever. But because you don't go the Vlads like an Abaddon normally does, but I think just with careful management of your resources and your ultimate and utilizing shrines and a magic wand, I think you'll make it out okay.
So I'm on Abaddon's Dota page right now. Do you have it up? Are you going to cheat, or what do you think his win rate is?
It's 58 or something overall.
Yeah, almost exactly. Yeah, it's 57.6.
Yes, I was not looking.
Well, yeah, he's a healing hero, so it's wild good. Yeah. But that's
my more interesting thing would be seeing what his ranking is in the 5K games. I know that's not the general viewership or whatever, but that's I kind of use that to tell, okay, is this hero actually good, or are they just a healing hero? Yeah, okay, in 5K plus, he still has a 55% win rate.
Yeah, 61.4% win rate in 2K and lower.
That is wild.
Gee golly gosh. Yeah. Anyway, okay, so because we always forget to do this. Let's talk about his talent tree pretty quickly.
Sure.
If we're just going through just math wise, at level 10, plus 25 damage has a decently higher win rate. 200 mana has a decently higher win rate. Although Slash was advocating for plus 5 armor.
Oh yeah, I would definitely go the armor, because you're not really. I mean, the only armor item that you're building on Abaddon is Blade Mail, and if you're playing him more in the core carry position, survivability on Abaddon is probably not too valued when he is the supporty kind of deal.
Yes.
But when you're only getting out a couple of aphotic shields and you're not spamming stuff to heal people, you're mostly oh, do I want to aphotic shield myself right now? Or do I need to keep chasing after this person because I'm not really getting hit and I don't have anything to dispel right now? I'd say you don't need your mana too badly on this guy, and I'd much rather have the armor. If the only art, if I'm getting Radiance, I'm going to be taking a bit less physical damage because of the mischance. But especially, I mean, the way Slasher played it was he would get the Radiance first, so I could see maybe you hit 15 before you even have your Blade Mail. You just have phase and whatever little items plus Radiance and no Blade Mail yet.
Yeah,
I could
phase
see that
wand.
So
wand is super important on Abaddon, more than a lot of other heroes even. His mana is so restrictive if you're not playing these support Abaddon where you have Soul Ring or Mana Boots or whatever.
Yeah, and I mean this is another hero that I would love to have Raindrop on. I can see how that I would have kind of negative synergy because he doesn't really need the damage absorption that badly, but I would still go if I'm playing this kind of offline Abaddon. God, there's one song from this band Pinback that I really like, and they say "Remember the Summer in Abaddon," and that's and it's a really cool line because they scream it. It's real nice. But and so now whenever I see Abaddon, I just say Abaddon because this fucking band pronounced it incorrectly on a loop.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's me. So I would definitely go the plus 5 armor. This is the one thing or one talent where it's interesting that it has the better pick rate. It has a 70% pick rate, but the win rate is horribly within the 200 mana favor. I want to say that's probably just because Abaddon in general better as a support than as a carry. And a lot of bad Abaddon, like you're more often to have an incompetent carry Abaddon player than an incompetent support Abaddon player.
Yeah.
So I feel like the carry Abaddon is the kind of thing where you're just like, I want to be carry Abaddon. I just want to do it. Now I'm just going to be carry Abaddon. And you don't really know what you're doing. You just want to do it anyways. You don't have a specific plan like this. Whereas if you're playing a support Abaddon, there's more like a reason that you're doing it.
Yeah. So what about 20? Move speed or CDR? I know we actually
reduction.
Really? You think cooldown reduction?
Yeah, dude.
The thing about CDR, just like math wise, 15% on his ult, which is 40 seconds, is only like a difference of like 4 seconds or something.
That's a huge deal, dude. Holy shit.
Yeah, 4 seconds.
Yeah. Oh my, you kidding me?
Yeah.
Actually 6 seconds. Thank you very much. But yeah, that's a big goddamn deal. 6 seconds? Like, yeah, dude. Dude, when I'm playing Wraith King and my ulti, like, there's that build where I went like Refresher and Octarine and all that shit. Yeah, that was fantastic. If my ulti went down from like 40 seconds to like 35, like that's the kill window. Like you can basically kill a strength carry every like 30, 35 seconds or something.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's like that's a big. I don't even really care about the aphotic shield thing. I mean, it's much once you have the plus 200 aphotic shield thing, and your shield is absorbing 400 damage every 5 seconds or whatever at that point. Like I don't know, just cooldown reduction is great. It also helps your heart will activate a little bit faster in any couple seconds true. that you're or any like quarter of a second that your heart gets in like 5% heal that's going off on you. I don't know, like it helps blade mail. It helps heart. It helps phase boots, TP even.
What if it?
The main thing is your ulti, man. That like a few seconds on your ulti. That's the difference between life and death.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. You swayed me. Also, like movement speed has a worse win rate on I shouldn't say almost all heroes, but a lot of heroes.
Yeah, it has a better win rate here.
Yeah, it does. Barely. It's plus 0.3. That's within the margin of error. The interesting thing to me would be, can you imagine if CDR affected Radiance ticks? So Radiance would tick faster by like 15%. That would be hilarious.
That would be fantastic.
Okay, and then at 25, 200 aphotic shield or 25 strength, I think pretty solidly you just go for the aphotic shield health, right?
Yeah, I would say so. I remember on the patch note review I had to argue about that one, but I think I definitely would go the aphotic shield thing. Interesting enough, in Slash's video he was like, well, if I'm against a Rubik, maybe I'll go the 25 strength. But
he was wrong about that.
What?
Yeah, the way that Rubik works is he steals the base ability. He doesn't steal it after the modification.
What? That's crazy. That's
otherwise
wild.
Rubik would be like a god. But yeah,
Rubik does. I was pretty sure he was a god.
He's pretty close. Good. Yeah. But yeah, otherwise it'd be like, okay, well, I stole dagger from a level 25 Quap, and now I'm casting a dagger every second on Rubik with no cast time.
Sure. It should just be like, if you have the Ags, you get the Ags upgrade. If you have level 25, you have the level 25 upgrade.
Yeah, that'd be a cool talent. But yeah, so he steals a base level aphotic shield regardless of the Abaddon's talents.
Okay, well that's cool. The more you know. Guess Slasher's just fucking dumb.
No, well, I didn't even know that, to be honest. Somebody in the comments corrected it, and then I tested it.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, I'm glad that we have this show for you to teach me how to play Dota.
Me too. Okay.
The 25 strength though, it is pretty like it is cool because it's plus 25 damage, right? And then also a ton of health. Like the old Queen of Pain, I think she had a talent for like plus 35 int.
Yeah.
Or the 70% lifesteal. And like when it first started coming out, I was taking that because I was doing a hell of a lot of right click damage, and it felt goddamn like as soon as I got that, I'm like 35 damage, and then like 2% like spell lamp. Like that's solid. I'm killing everybody now. Just like huge masses of stats are really cool to get sometimes. I don't know, but I mean I think overall 200 aphotic shield health is like huge. I just can't pass that one up. Yes.
Okay. So that makes a lot of sense. Let's talk about support Morphling a little bit, because this, I would say, is a bit less common, but I think it's something that people are interested in general. Like, it's something that people hear and they're like, "Ooh, this is weird." The crux of support Morphling really is just one ability. It's just the ability to have adaptive strikes that stun for 4 seconds. 4.25, excuse me.
Is it still 4? I thought, okay.
Yeah, it's 4.25.
I got nerfed a while ago to like 3.75 or something, because like I used to play it a bit, and I would be like, this is just not Dota. Like, I'm not playing Dota right now. I'm just like...
Yeah, I'm just a stunning machine.
I'm just like AFK at my keyboard, and then every 10 seconds I tab back in, press W, and then someone's not allowed to play. And then it's wild, man.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It is a very unexpected thing if you're playing against it, because Morphling support in, I would say, every bracket is not common. Also has the added thing, if you pick it early, of it's always funny to watch them like go really hard committing to countering your support because they think it's a core. But yeah, so Morphling support is something that I'm interested in. Just in general, I've played it, not a tremendous amount, but I've played it. I've dabbled. I've played a few games here and there. The basic idea of it is just you are a very tanky, very mobile support with a very long stun, and you can kind of build whatever items you need. So generally what you do on Morphling support is you build some form of mobility, usually Blink or Force Staff. Then a lot of people build Yules. You build Tranquils early as well. And then you just walk around and you're like really hard to kill, and you just stun the enemy cores for 4.25 seconds, which is such an absurd amount of time. It's one of those things that you hear and you're like, okay, 4 seconds, like that's a lot.
Yeah.
But then you're in a game and you're like, dude, I've been stunned for this entire
fight. It never got nerfed. Why did I stop playing this? Something happened to make me stop playing this.
And the cooldown is only 10 seconds. And he has a 12% CDR talent, which brings it down to 9.
Yeah.
That is so much stun. It's actually absurd.
Yeah, and the idea behind the Yules is just like, well, one, he needs mana and he needs move speed because he's an absurdly slow hero. But you just stun them, and then when that's over, if they're not like dead, you just Yules them up, and then you have like
yeah,
one
you stun them
second
again.
left, and you're like, no, I'll just stun you again. I don't know, I guess I'll just stun you, and it's just like, oh my god, this guy's crazy. I hate this guy.
And it has a 900 range when it's max, which is a good amount of range. I've also seen
70 mana. It costs 70 mana.
70 mana, dude.
70 mana for a 4.25 second stun.
So, build on Morph, what people do is they get Waveform at level 1, and then they get Morph at level 2, and then they max Adaptive Strike. Then after that, you finish off maxing Waveform. While on Carry Morphling, obviously the skill build is a bit different, and you want to go farther into Morph. On the support Morphling, really, you're just keeping yourself super far into strength, and it's like 10 minutes into the game, you have 2,000 health. And it kind of sucks sometimes, people always forget, but when you shift out of Agi, that means you have no armor, or like practically no armor, which can be an issue in certain games. But in the vast majority of games, you want to just shift super far and then leave it that way when you're playing a support Morphling.
Yeah.
And then he can actually...
Like there's something people do, like Tranquil. One of the main reasons you get Tranquils isn't just the healing aspect; it's that it has built-in armor to it. I see a lot of blade mails on support Morphlings that gives you the int that you need, a little bit of damage so that you can actually still be last hitting even though you're full on strength. Yeah. And it gives you 5 armor, and it's it's like, okay, I'm big and I'm tanky and I have a fucking blade mail. But yeah, you can really build anything you want on Morphlings. So there's like a little bit of a premium to like, this item helps me do support Morphling things, but also if this game hits late, like I can actually also transition into like a bit of a carry. And it's like Blade Mail's decent for. Yule's definitely isn't, but something like, I'm going to get a Hurricane Pike. Force Staff to eventually turn into a Hurricane Pike so I can, like Force Staff my friends. Just stuff like that is good.
Yeah, Morphling Ags is also something that I'm interested in. It's generally not great unless you have a specific hero that it's very good with, like a Terrorblade or like an Undying. Or a like particular, but like then the regular replicate is still similarly good. But so that's the gist of it. Really is I may build Aghanims depending on our team comp or the enemy team comp, but I do not. It's not in my operating plan. I'm just gonna be going Tranquils, Wand, Mobility, and probably a Yules, stuff like that. Maybe I'll transition depending on team comp. His talents are, I can't really count on the win rate because it's mostly just carry Morphling win rate, but I'm probably going to pick 200 mana over 8 Agi at level 10. At 15, I will most definitely be picking 12% CDR at level over 25 attack speed. Level 20, I'm probably going to pick move speed over damage, but honestly that's pretty close because that's one of those things where if the game is going that late, I may need to be a source of damage and a source of pushing, so I might go in for the damage. That will remain to be seen. Then at level 25, I'm going to be picking 400 waveform range. That has a 6% almost higher win rate overall, for good reason. 400 waveform range is wild good. And don't forget, you can cast during waveform, which is a huge aspect of why waveform is so good, and why E-Blade Morphling, for instance, is so good. And that is a big value to support Morphling, is the ability to even pre Blink Dagger, pre Force Staff, you can waveform and adaptive strike somebody all in the same motion.
Yeah, while you're immune, so it's not like you pop up in there and then a line, zero cast point hexes you. You like
Yeah.
wait for me, you're like, hello, I'm water, and then they're just stunned for 4 seconds because they don't really have anything to do about someone being water. It's not a big water counter kind of aspect in any heroes.
Yeah.
Yet.
Um,
I will say, talent wise, even on carry Morphling, a lot of Morphlings like to get the 200 mana over the 8 agility, just because that hero's int has been like so horrifically slashed.
Yeah, and they've increased some of his mana cost, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I mean, waveform is wild expensive, dude. It's like, it starts at 140 and then goes up to 165. Like, that's not okay.
Yeah.
The adaptive strike is 70 mana. It doesn't matter. But, I mean, also, like, morphing costs mana. Morphing to your replicate costs mana. That's what always screws me up is, like, I waveform away, then, okay, now I'll just replicate out. And it's like 150 goddamn mana. Like, who said that was fine? Not me. I didn't say that. But here I am playing this game. Even though I didn't say okay.
Yep. I actually am just looking, and some people are maxing waveform last, and they're actually maxing morph second after adaptive strike. I'm probably gonna max waveform second, though. To be honest,
it's a good nuke. It's like any nuke that goes to above 300 damage. I'm always like a little bit extra value on that one.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the gist of support Morphling for you. I'm excited to play it. Generally, what you do is you roam a bit. He kind of sucks at zoning for obvious reasons because he hits for like 12 damage
and hits for 12 damage. Yeah, I mean the thing with support Morphling is I think people often go a little bit too hard in like maxing their strength out because that's something that you can do. Like it's almost better to not do that and then start morphing strength once they start going on you to kind of get that like witch doctor effect where like you're trying to kill a witch doctor and they're so low and you get one more hit off, but they had voodoo restoration, so they lived, and they're so low, so you try to get that hit off, and it just like loops like that, and then you're under tower, and then they all TP'd and they kill you. And like a Morphling with a bunch of with like some strength morphing, like that same thing will happen. But if you're just full on strength mode from like the beginning, they're just gonna be like, I'm not gonna bother with that one. But if you then morph strength after, then like, I'm going to bother with this. And then they get punished because it turns out they should not have bothered with that.
Yes. So let's talk a little bit about, before we hop into our game, the direct synergy. It's more of an indirect synergy between our two heroes that we're going to be playing this week. And I think the obvious synergy and probably the most significant part of it is that we're two heroes that are not your 1 or 2, but we are very annoying and we beg to be dealt with, and we're very tanky and hard to deal with. And you could talk about the other big part of synergy, actually.
Yeah. So there's that, the fact that we're both, and that you can open up a draft with these two, and
it'll confuse the living
daylights. I guess it's a Morphling carry, and then like Abaddon somewhere. I don't really know. The one thing that you would be worried about is if they pick Ancient Apparition. Ancient Apparition does counter both of these heroes. So maybe ban that out or just accept the fact that no one picks AA right now, which is great.
Yeah, thank God.
The main synergy between these two, but running on offlane like Abaddon and a support like and kind of like a 5 like Morphling. I'd probably say Morphling I guess can either 4 or 5, but probably best off in the 5 position. Like I'd still want a really good roamer rather than this Morphling who like needs a bunch of levels before they do anything. And normally you would say like your person who needs a bunch of levels is the 4, but if you're looking at it in terms of who's going to just be like supporting the lane and who's going to be running around making shit happen on the map, 280 move speed, only spell being a like a waveform for 100 damage and then a right click for 40 damage. That's not going to do anything on the map until it has a bunch of levels in adaptive. This is not going to happen. But if you do have as like a 5 or whatever, if you look at the way that heroes normally fill roles in Dota, you have your 4 or your 3 is typically some sort of initiator or someone with a casual stun like an Axe, a Slardar, maybe Spirit Breaker. Underlord has a great casual disable. Sand King, sometimes Earthshaker, Batrider has like a relatively low cooldown. Like a lot of these good offlaners, I'm sure I'm forgetting someone, has a they all have like Clockwork Initiator, not quite the low cooldown disable, but Hookshot is not a black hole by any stretch of the imagination. But you want someone with this kind of low cooldown disable that can make stuff happen and be your frontliner. Abaddon as an offlaner does not supply you any lockdown. So if you end up with like, a Shadow Demon support and then a 4 bounty hunter, and then you don't have a Slardar in the off lane, you just actually have 0 stun on your team. You're never going to catch anyone, regardless of how much vision bounty hunter is providing you. So that's the thing you want to avoid with an Abaddon. You want to have someone who could stun on your team. Normally it's like a 4, but the advantage of Morphling is this kind of like lane supporting 5 that does supply your casual stun for you. So instead of getting the casual stun and the off lane, now you get it in your lane support. And normally you have a lane support that's pretty decent at saving someone, be it Avenge, Shadow Demon, Dazzle, Rest in Peace, Oracle, something like that. You want some kind of defensive support that can do something if someone gets gone on. If your 5 is instead a stunner, then it would be nice to get that from somewhere else, and that's what the Abaddon does. So you trade basically the role of the casual stun initiating thing, because as we said, between waveform and the natural range of adaptive strike, Morphling actually has pretty solid initiation, and not initiation as in a 5-man black hole, but initiation as in you catch someone out, and then you do something, and then you force them to kind of counter-initiate on you, then Abaddon dispels and runs in, and then you do your real big counter-initiation on their counter-initiation. So, like, you stun someone out, then they have to Tidehunter Ravage, like, to the 2 people who are going on it, and then they're all grouped up trying to save their buddy, and then you do your 5-man, RP or whatever after they go in. We just had an episode on Problem about initiation, counter-initiation shit, so that's kind of where that's coming from. But, yeah, you catch someone with that, then you go in with 1 or 2 people on your team or your Abaddon, then they have to respond to that. Then you've got all 5 of their heroes in the danger zone trying to save their boy who just got caught out, and all you're risking is your 3,000 health Morphling and then an Abaddon on the front lines, and then you can, deal with all that shit.
Yep. So on that note, I'm excited to play this game. Fort Morphling is just so darn fun. I hope. Maybe. We'll see.
Yeah, dude, he doesn't feel like you're playing Dota. He just doesn't. You're just like, all right, I'll just stun someone, I guess, and then just fuck around until this is up again.
Yep.
It's great.
Okay, so we're going to hop into the game. Of course, our VODs will be up on youtube.com/.ptv1. That, of course, is a numerical 1. And you can watch those VODs there and also everything else that we do. This isn't really the time for plugs, but, why not? So on that note, we'll see you guys after the break.
Okay, bye, everybody. Here we go! Theorycraft Thursday, round 2. Ready? Fight! Okay.
All right, hello everyone. We are back. We've just finished our game. It was a game. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. We ended up losing.
All right.
But I think both of us individually were pretty confident in our heroes and in the synergy and just in things in general. We had a couple teammates that were not exactly stellar players, but such is life. Let's go over the teams first. So the enemy team had a safe lane, duo lane, Disruptor, Anti-Mage. They had an off lane duo lane of Venomancer, Witch Doctor, and they had a mid Templar Assassin. The Witch Doctor, coincidentally, was played by the guy, you may remember his Reddit thread. He literally only plays Witch Doctor. Like, I'm on his Dota buff right now. He has 2,336 Witch Doctor games. And his second most hero is Shadow Shaman with 262. So he was the Witch Doctor. He's actually been on, coincidentally, in a Theorycrafting Thursday game before, since he's ballpark or party MMR. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Our team was a safe lane duo lane, which was Morphling Slark. We had a mid Magnus and an off lane of Abaddon. Then Rubik was just kind of like meandering about. He started in the off lane with Abaddon, and then eventually he wised up to the fact that we needed him top after we yelled at him multiple times. And then he came top, but things were still terrible, and things didn't go great, basically. So, Brad, you want to start with your lane, and then we'll get to mine? Because your lane went well. We'll do good news before bad news.
Yeah, so I originally wanted to start jungle, because it looked like they were going to have some kind of a tri-lane, like some kind of disruptor.
Yeah.
Disruptor, Anti-Mage, Witch Doctor, which, like, I can do things against, but I'd be better off rotating to jungle and then waiting for one of them to rotate out and then come in with, like, oh, I'm level 3 at 2 minutes, and now I'm gonna fuck you up! And, like, that would have been great. But instead, Rubik really wanted to dual lane with me, so I was like, alright, so I bought items that weren't great for dual laning, or for jungling. And very quickly, we were like, hey, you know what? If we have a Morphling Slark against an aggro dual lane involving a Venomancer and a Witch Doctor, probably gonna lose. So then the plan became I need to rush to an Iron Talon as quick as possible so that I can transition to jungling so our Rubik can just like leave me the hell alone because he didn't want to leave me alone until I could jungle. So it was just like this kind of weird thing where I wasn't doing what I wanted to do, and then I was also not doing what I wanted to do after I had to transfer out of not doing what I wanted to do, and it was just kind of like a terrible mess. But the lane itself like went pretty fine. At some point, Anti-Mage realized he could burn my mana, and then I realized that I could just use my mana. So I would just put shield on myself and then just run at them. I would run at anyone I could see. And I just like run them down, and then I'd get kind of low. I'd walk back. I'd tango, get enough. I had a wand, so I'd like get enough wand charges back for another shield, and then I'd wait for Anti-Mage to be like, "Oh, I'm gonna burn your mana," and then I just shield myself and run back at him. He's like, "Oh, you have no mana. I don't do any damage anymore." Yeah, it was pretty great. I killed the Anti-Mage once because at one time I would chase him down, and after I chased him pretty far down the lane, he'd blink back and try to CS, and then I would just walk back and chase him down again. Then eventually he'd be like, "I don't have another blink. You're just gonna kill me now." Yeah. And I just killed him. So it was great. Like that original idea of me just like fucking off and doing whatever until I see one of their supports rotate out, and then I go in and then force their supports to come back. And that would have totally worked if they weren't free farming both the creeps and the heroes in our safe lane as a result of the Rubik just not being there and having a solo supporting Morphling try to zone out Venomancer Witch Doctor, which is never going to happen.
Yeah. So with that perfect segue, let's talk about safe lane. And this is really a case in point of how you lose a lane with a support Morphling. Support Morphling is not a hero that can zone. You kind of just have to accept the fact that the offlane is going to get XP. And that's fine when it's a 1v1, and when it's a traditional, like, oh, it's an offlane, whatever. But when they offlane aggro duo, I mean, even if I wasn't a Morphling, literally any hero, maybe that's an exaggeration, but pretty much every single matchup, whenever
any hero
the enemy...
any hero that isn't like specialized in zoning is going to lose that lane.
Yes. So obviously, whenever the enemy team aggro duos, you pretty much have to try lane or do something similar to a try lane, whether it's some aggressive rotations to set the pace or whatever.
Yeah, you have to kill them. You can't let someone aggro dual lane and not punish it. Like that's like any game I've ever played, especially when I'm playing on team games and I'm playing safe lane and they have an aggro duo lane and my support is my 4 is somewhere else. I'm just like that. That's the easiest way to get me tilted is be like, why are you like? There are you are rotating on mid for a kill. There are people who are under our tower diving us. Like you don't have to look far if you're trying to find a kill, Mr. 4. It's right fucking here. Like they are being aggressive in our space now. Why would we not fight 2 heroes with 3 heroes? Like they're looking for a fight, and we just have the opportunity to shoot them in the head, and we're just deciding not to for some fucking reason.
Yeah. It is a very easy way to single-handedly lose a game for your team. Let's put it that way. The other big thing about their aggro duo was Venomancer Witch Doctor itself is... Not only am I playing Morphling, which can't zone them, and we have a Slavane Slark, which Proud, I think, is very firmly in the camp that was the wrong pick. I'm also less firmly, but I still agree that it's definitely the wrong pick in this game, considering how it went. So they literally just punched us to death, and then they would dive us under tower, and they push our tower super fast with Veno wards, and it was just like a mess. Really, it was just a mess. Honestly, actually, safe lane Abaddon carry would have been preferable to this Lark, like in retrospect. Yeah. But so that's how that went. Basically, that set the pace for the game. Was like our lane got super lost, and mid was kind of a wash, it seems, and then your off lane went well. So it was really just the Veno was super ahead, and then he became a huge issue as the game continued. And the Witch Doctor, not surprisingly for a guy with 2,400 almost Witch Doctor games, he was pretty good at using Witch Doctor's abilities and stuff. Granted, whatever. But that was really the issue. And then that set me off to a bad start. I had a couple fights where I lived through, not surprisingly, because I had like 3,000 health at 15 minutes. Yeah. And was able to get some items. I ended up going... Let's see, I want to find my exact item progression to make sure I don't say anything wrong. I had... Alright, so what I did was I went... To start, I just did typical thing, Courier, Obs, 2 branches, 2 Clarities, Tango. Then I went Brown Boots, Windlace, finished a Magic Wand, Mana Boots, because we needed them for the team. Normally, like we talked about earlier, we would have gotten Tranquils. Then I had a big team fight where I ended up with 3,000 gold, so I just built a blink dagger, which is real handy. Then I built a Yules, and then I was going in for blade mail last, and then I would have built a scythe after blade mail. I wanted to build a scythe right after the Yules, but then like we started losing a bunch of fights, I had to buy back and stuff, so that was just not in the cards. And TA was hitting like a truck.
Yeah, the TA was brutal. There were multiple times where I died before my ulti got off because I was like, oh, okay, I'm getting low. This next hit will proc my ulti and then I'll be fine. But no, it just I was at like 450 health or something, and then it just killed me because the threshold is so if you are above 400 health and an ability does above 400 health of damage, you will just die without your ultimate activating. It's not like, if you get crit for 1,000, your ultimate is not going to stop that. It's just going to kill you. Your ultimate works in that if an attack were to not kill you but bring you below a threshold, your ultimate will activate. It can't activate when you're dead. And when you have a TA critting for 800, it's a decent chance that the last hit is going to not proc your ultimate and you're just going to die. And that happened twice. That was pretty fucking brutal.
Yeah.
So that's one reason that getting that 5 armor talent is great. But I mean, once you have a TA that's that like balls out of control, she had not quite double my net worth, but I mean, she had a Deso and a BKB and a Daedalus and then a Butterfly, and at that point, it's like it's just gonna kill me. I think that's just gonna kill me.
Yeah, her farm was good. She actually did something interesting that I've not tried before, where she went just Aki with a bottle, of course. Aki treads Dragonlance and then went Deso and then went Blink. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll do like Aki treads bottle, Deso, Blink, Dragonlance. The Dragonlance is interesting stat-wise. I didn't play the matchup, of course, so I'm not 100% sure. Yeah. And she did finish an early Deso at 29, which is like a really decent timing.
I like think 700 a lot of it was enabled by the Venomancer because the Venomancer could supply all of that like AoE slow and stuff. She didn't really need to be able to blink. Anytime I have a Venomancer on my team, I always feel a lot more comfortable not building as much mobility and just depending that, the Serpent Wards slowing everyone up a little bit is just gonna kind of make up for my lack of mobility by just making sure the enemies just can't get the fuck away from me. Like Magnus couldn't blink most of the time. Slark is slowed like a motherfucker all day. I'm trying to throw out every aphotic shield I can to dispel slows, and they're just getting reapplied every 2 seconds. So all TA really had to do was just walk up into any of these fights and just right-click people, and we really couldn't avoid anything.
Yeah. I will say on the Morphling front, it was very nice that they picked AM last, because I had one of the funniest moments I've had in Dota in recent memory, where I solo killed a split-pushing AM with his own illusion, and I really, even if you don't want to watch the whole VOD, just watch like 5 minutes of it at any point and just watch how ridiculous it is that a hero is throwing out 4.25 second stuns every 10 seconds. It is absolutely absurd. It's so fun to play, and it's just...
It feels like it's not allowed. Like when you pull it off and then someone dies to it, or no, it's like, okay, when you get the first stun, and then it wears off, and then a few seconds pass, and it looks like they're about to get out, and then you just throw another one, and you're just like, oh my god, like, is this fair? Am I allowed to? And it really doesn't feel like you're playing Dota. Like, you do an ability, and then you just kind of, like, twiddle your thumbs for 6 seconds, and then you do it again, and then, like, that's it. I just, like, do you agree with me on that? Like, it really feels like a different kind of thing than, like...
Oh, yeah.
It's just, it doesn't feel like anything else. It's just,
it feels kind of like those teamfight heroes where it's like if you're playing Magnus and you don't have RP up, that's a very drastically like you're kind of bored. But when you have RP up, it's like, oh man, this is fun. So you just gotta wait
for opportunities and shit. Yeah,
exactly. And with Morphling, it's like that where it's like, all right, I'm only useful for this one thing, and my entire success hinges on me successfully doing this one ability. And everything else is kind of ancillary and is just like a way for me to do my one thing. Yeah. And so it was fun. I really enjoyed it. I don't know if I'd be able to play like this. I would never be able to spam this because I'm pretty sure I would either go insane or lose my fundamental ability to play Dota 2. But boy, it was fun this one game. I'd play a good few more games. It's a
good time.
It is really good against things like AM, of course. Kind of like how, I mean, Shadow Demon used to be the AM counter, and it still is to some extent. That was really handy. And even when I wasn't countering the AM with himself, it was just good to have the AM like go kill a disruptor or kill whatever.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, other illusions weren't as good. Like TA illusions suck. Like TA illusions are absolutely terrible. The Abaddon Illusions would have been good too. I actually didn't replicate you, I think, ever, because I was just holding it for AM.
Yeah, you kind of had to. And the nice thing is that even like if you don't catch the right AM, you can still just make an illusion of his illusion, and it's just as good as to make an illusion of the real deal.
Yep. So that was that. Honestly, like I mean, it was a fun game, but we really just had issues with like our lane went horribly, and then our play did not compensate for that. We had a few signs of life where we'd have team fights where things would go real well, but those were few and far between, and we're not.
Yeah, it's like we'd have a decent defense, and then our Slark and our Magnus would kind of like go somewhere random and try to fight 2v5 and then die, and then we'd have to all buy back and try. And it was just like a catastrophe. There was one time. I mean, I don't want to just make it the complaint about teammate shit, but especially on Slark, BKB is such an incredibly good item on Slark. And Slark, so the main reason I said Slark was a terrible pick this game was it was against Disruptor. You never want to play Slark into Disruptor. Slark's big boon is that one, he can get out of shit. Like if you don't have him silenced, he can get out of things. He can ulti away from single target damage, and also even if you do have a way to silence him or stun him out, he can purge them ahead of time. What he doesn't want to be against is anything that he can't purge, and you cannot purge like ambient AoE on the ground like zones of crowd control. So be it black hole, or
Disruptor ult.
Disruptor ult is the main one. Are there like any other real big like zone of control abilities than that?
Fissure, I suppose.
No, I mean you can purge Fissure. Fissure just like Fissure puts it down and then
okay, yeah.
Like you purge it. I'm just saying like anything that you actually cannot dark pact out.
Venom ult is not purgeable.
Right, but that's not like that's just damage. That's not. I think it's actually like those are the only two. Like, there's no real good word for it, right? It's just like it creates a zone of
control makes sense.
Kind of, yeah. Anyway, Chronosphere. Chronosphere is another big one. You cannot dark pact off a Chronosphere after you purge Chronosphere form you 50 times in 0.5 seconds. It's still there. So that's not great. So that's usually what Disruptor ulti is. And it's a low cooldown spell also. It's not just like, oh, I got Black Hole and I died. That makes sense. It's like, oh, it's just Disruptor ulti. But you can BKB out of it. And just the one thing that like depressed me is he BKB'd and then he just didn't pounce and he didn't ulti and he just like waited for TA to just right click him in the middle of a Disruptor ulti while he was BKB'd. And then we lost off that and I cried. So.
Yeah. It could have been better. But yeah, so that's the game, honestly. I mean, I think proof of concept wise, both of these heroes, the synergy between them was nice, just to ram that in.
Yeah.
But overall, it's a Dota game, right? There's 5 people on the team, and sometimes they're 5.
So survivable between my ability to like dispel you and like it was hilarious watching them chase you, and I'd be like, "Oh, I got you. Yep, you're good."
Yeah,
and I like the Abaddon a lot too. I think I might even want to go like just actually straight up farm the Radiance before Blade Mail, even as an offlane, like just kind of tank it and be like, all right, this like we're gonna not have an Abaddon for a bit. I'm just gonna farm like an asshole. I actually do farm like really fast, even with like no healing items or whatever. Just through like my Aphotic Shield tanks me up, and I have good right click going on just through my Curse of Avernus, and the Aphotic Shield does AoE damage. And like once I got it, I was like, I did a ton of goddamn damage. It was super, super solid. But especially against that TA. But I don't know. I take it game by game. Of course, against the TA, the armor from Blade Mail was super, super good. So we'll see.
I wish Morphling had an armor talent that game. I probably could have just had a casual buckler. That might have helped a bit.
Wow, I had the most damage on our team. That's kind of depressing. I guess, I mean, who else is going to do damage? But yeah, like, and I'm sure a lot of that was the Radiance, so. And in the Blade Mail, actually a huge amount of that was the Blade Mail, let's be real. Against Venomancer and TA. Like, I killed TA with her own damage once, which was awesome. That was like what the Radiance was cool for, because I would like dispel the refraction and then Blade Mail the real hit.
I had almost 4 minutes of crowd control, and that's only my stun, of course, because he doesn't have other crowd control, in a 40-minute game. So that's minute's worth of crowd control every. And also, I have to consider like the first 10 minutes. I mean, I actually at level 7 had a decent time, but for the first while, it doesn't really stun for anything. Gosh, the stun is just ridiculous. Anyway, do you have any more things to say about the game? I'm kind of tapped.
No, I'm pretty good. The Orb of Venom is definitely still necessary on this hero. Even if you've got a bunch of points in Curse, like I was maxing Curse of Avernus, or at least I was 3/3/1 when I was level 7. So of course I got ult at 6, but I started maxing the shield at at level 7, and then by 8 I had it, or yeah, by 7 I had it maxed, but at level 5 I had 3 points in curse just so I could be running down that anti-mage. So I definitely didn't feel bad not having a single point in my queue until I had both my other skills maxed. So that was interesting. Maybe I would just do 3 points curse and then a point in queue at level 8 or level 9 rather. But yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah. All right. Let's do some quick plugs then and close this business out.
Okay. Man.
You can watch the games that we just played, youtube.com/.ptv1. That's also where the replay reviews are going up. We've got a lot of support replay reviews so far. We had a good off-lane Axe game, some other stuff coming out, and there will be more coming for the next probably week and a half or so. We have a Twitter, @Doppy_show. I'm @Arsenity, Proud as @ProDota. We have a Twitch, of course, where we have the Wednesday night in-houses at 9 Eastern. We have the Sunday team stream at 5 Eastern, which is all the show hosts and Grouty playing some games as a team, and mostly just us yelling at each other for like 3 hours. We also, of course, stream casually, and we stream the Monday Q&A at 9 Eastern. We have a website which is soon to be changed. Proud and I have both seen the proof of concept of the new website, or not even proof of concept, the like more or less functioning version, and it's exciting. Dope. It's cool. You can email us questions you can email us anything, really, but questions especially to defensepatients@gmail.com. Our Patreon is Patreon.
Percy actually gives fantastic relationship advice. So if you have any issues with your significant other, or maybe there's a sweet honey that you're trying to mac on, direct all of that to Ursinity.
That's fair.
You got it. You have it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like to brag, but that is my expertise.
What the fuck? Like, that's your favorite thing to do.
Well, I brag about other things, right? You gotta
brag
know
more than any other person I know.
There's a time and a place for bragging, and there's a time and a place for being humble about how good you are at relationship advice.
Okay.
And that now is the latter. Anyway, we have a Reddit r/defenseofthepatients, and if you'd like to support us, you can do so through Patreon, patreon.com/defenseofthepatients. We are doing very well there, happily. We've got Patreon exclusive episodes. The 2 are out for February. There'll be 2 more, of course, in March, which is the month we are now in, because that's a month that Jesus Christ. Okay, it's late. I'm misspeaking now. Those are fun.
Dude, he's so good.
Everything else, I don't know. Whatever. iTunes reviews help us.
Just give us money on Patreon. I think that's the only interesting plug. Just give us money. How about that?
Yep. And if you did not contact me to get your Patreon review for anybody from February, you're out of luck, because now it's back to the regular the regular cost. So that's about that. We have completed the show. We've completed the combo, and I am ready to go to sleep. How are you going to end this show, Proud? Do you have any words of wisdom?
I'm still doing coaching, so I may actually have to raise my price because I'm getting a few too many people and I don't have time to really get to everything right now. But I'm still doing coaching for now at 15 an hour. Maybe next 2 weeks I'll put it back to the original 20 that I had it at. I just feel guilty ever asking anyone for money, but I mean, if you're good at something, you should ask for money for it. I'm just, I'm like, well, I guess you can pay me. I don't know. We did say you should pay me, but if it's too much, it's fine. But no, like, pay me money. I'm great at everything I do, and I deserve money. So just give me money.
Yep. All right. Well, on that note, that has been Theorycraft Thursday. And
with Ursinity and Proud, welcome to the show.
Yep. Good night. Goodbye. Good everything.
Carry on my wayward son.
Please no singing. Roland's not on this show.
Okay.
Please no singing.
Okay.
Please no singing.
Okay.
Please no singing.
Okay.
Please no singing.
Okay. Okay. Here we go. Theorycraft Thursday, round 2. Ready? Fight! Okay. 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 Theorycraft Thursday. Theorycraft Thursday. Ready? Fight! Ready? Fight! Ready? Fight! Okay. Theorycraft Thursday. Theorycraft Thursday. Okay. Okay.
no singing. Roland's not on this show.
Okay.
Please no singing. Roland's not on this show.
Okay. Theorycraft Thursday, round 2. Ready?